What is missing from Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest? Why does it feel so different than the original? Or is it really different? Over the years as 100 Year Quest was ongoing, more and more fans came out and said that it doesn't feel like what the original Fairy Tail did. And after the anime came out recently, the number of these fans increased. So is 100 Year Quest really different? Is something really missing from it? Did Mashima fail to capture the original charm of his own manga? Or is there something else? The answer is actually kinda complicated. I mean, it really isn't, but it is kinda. As there are multiple reasons why fans feel this way. Some being actual differences between the two series, while others being more about people prioritizing their own feelings over reasoning. First, what I believe is probably one of the more common reasons why people feel that something is missing from 100 Year Quest is nostalgia. A lot of people grow up watching Fairy Tail. It was the first anime for many people. They came home from school and watched it on TV. It was the first manga for many people, but got them into anime as a whole. But those carefree times are gone. We are now adults with jobs and responsibilities. When you now read and watch Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest and have this feeling inside you that something is missing, you are missing the carefree times, rather than 100 Year Quest actually missing something major. You just simply associate the two because Fairy Tail has been part of your life for so long. You associate the good times with OG Fairy Tail, while the bad times with 100 Year Quest, leaving this feeling inside you that something is different or missing. I believe nostalgia is one of the more common reasons why some fans feel like that something is missing or isn't how it used to be, even if 100 Year Quest is roughly the same as the original Fairy Tail was. However, saying that nostalgia is the only reason would be dishonest, as there are actual differences between 100 Year Quest and the original Fairy Tail, giving it a slightly different feeling. One of these being pacing. Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest has a faster pacing than the original Fairy Tail had. Even though Fairy Tail's pacing was always on the faster side compared to many other manga running the same time, its pacing was still slower than 100 Year Quest's. Not much, but slightly slower. Fairy Tail for the longest was a weekly manga, with it sometimes releasing 2 chapters a week when Mashima had a good mood. So we got used to a slower pacing over the 11 years of its weekly publication. However, 100 Year Quest is a bi-weekly manga, meaning it releases a chapter half as many times as the original did. So to compensate for its slow release speed and make the story progress without it dragging out for far too many years, they made the pacing faster, resulting in fights, backstories and arcs being shorter, and in a faster plot progression compared to the original story. Some fans who got used to Fairy Tail's slower pacing might have the feeling because of this while reading 100 Year Quest like if the story would be rushed, even if this isn't the case. This pacing difference between the original and the sequel might give the feeling like if something would be off or isn't how it used to be. However, this is something what can't be helped, as even if a slower pacing would give the original feeling back, and arguably would massively increase the writing quality of 100 Year Quest, it would also make it painfully slow. Some fans already have issues waiting for chapters and events to conclude already, and even slower pacing might just kill people's interest in the manga entirely. So this pacing is something what people need to get used to. Mashima isn't rushing the story as some people claim. This is just a bi-weekly pacing for a manga. The anime in the other hand, oh boy. If you are an anime only and think the pacing is way too fast, then you are right. The anime adaptation further elevated the pacing by making it even faster. JC Staff was forced by the committee to adapt half of the goddamn manga, that is 91 chapters, into 25 episodes. And to accomplish this, they had to cut out as much content as humanly possible, resulting in a terrible pacing halfway through the season. So if you are an anime only and you don't like its pacing, I highly recommend reading the manga of 100 Year Quest. It is slightly faster pacing compared to the original, but far better than the anime. And since I already brought up the topic of good content, if you are an anime only and you have this feeling like if something will be missing, then you are right as well. As I said, the anime cut content out to fit 3 arcs in, so there is indeed something missing. There are a lot of extra dialogue and scenes cut out, with even some fights being cut shorter than they used to be. Even if these extra scenes aren't important to the story, removing them took away from Fairy Tail's overall vibe, making it feel even different than the original did, and sometimes making transitions between scenes feel unnatural. Now with this out of the way, the last thing what I believe is causing this feeling if something will be missing or is different is the structure of 100-year quest being different than it was in the original. The original Fairy Tail was heavily focusing on the whole guild, with few arcs being there but only focused on the main team. At the end of each arc, we will get home to the guild and see them have fun and do their usual shenanigans, funny moments in the form of wrecking the guild, or Mira getting hit with a bottle, wholesome moments and so on being sprinkled in. And through the arcs we would often see many members outside the main team have their own shine, get character development, have their own fights, or just screen time in general. This pretty much became part of Fairy Tail's identity and what made it unique and interesting, giving it this feeling like if the reader would be part of the guild as well. Now 100-year quest is slightly different as it mainly focuses on the main team. The amount of screen time and character development what other characters from the original get is far more limited. It still exists, but it isn't as common or major as it used to be. Same goes with the chilling with the guild trope. Unlike in the original, where they returned home after each arc, in 100-year quest they move on to the next part of the quest, with only returning home once and having a fun with the guild after the Aldoran arc once when the guild itself was dragged to the continent by fairies. So this obviously creates a different feeling for 100-year quest, as we are heavily used to these through Fairy Tail's long run. However, in no way does this make 100-year quest bad. In fact, it actually makes it better, as even though these tropes made the original unique and good, it wouldn't work with 100-year quest, as the whole sequel is centered around Team Natsu taking on a quest. Taking the whole guild on a quest sounds goofy, while running back home after each arc from an entire different continent would be stupid. They would spend more money and time going back and forth than searching for the Dragon Guards. So this structure for 100-year quest is good. We still receive character development from other characters sometimes outside the main team. And sometimes they go back home and have their usual guild fun, what causes one or two walls to get disintegrated. All this without undermining the fact that the whole sequel is about a quest taken on by Team Natsu. 100-year quest has few minor differences compared to the original Fairy Tail. However, these differences aren't bad and are necessary to make 100-year quest work. Even though these differences might make people feel like something would be off or missing, they are more than needed. Expect the anime spacing and good content that was absolutely unwanted. The committee did JC stuff dirty with the free arcs. So in the end, 100-year quest is indeed slightly different. It has a slightly different feeling and vibe to it, but is understandable considering the story's different structure and release speed. Slightly different structure also resulted in tropes that were common in the original to be less frequent. This combined with nostalgia made a lot of fans feel like something is missing or different. And in no way does it make 100-year quest bad or worse than the original. In fact, 100-year quest and the original Fairy Tail are roughly the same. The differences are way too minor, and the sequel pretty much continues the legacy of the original Fairy Tail. The things what we liked Fairy Tail for are still present in 100-year quest. They didn't go away. I'm not gonna tell you to ignore your feelings regarding this topic, but I hope this video makes you understand why things are the way they are, making you be able to enjoy 100-year quest like you did the original Fairy Tail. This was Space G, and see you guys in space. Bye!